Gungans use guns. They just straight up use fucking bombs. It's kind of a ballsy move, I gotta be honest. I mean, you can take on an army with just bombs. I don't remember if this like campaign follows a sort of Elseworld scenario, where it's like, you know, oh, what if the droids won kind of thing. Because that's kind of what it seems like it's doing right now, is that sort of thing, which I'd be okay with. I like those sorts of shit. They're usually not very well written. Like, I don't know, I don't go there for that, so it doesn't bother me very much. Oh! Thank you.
We've captured a command post.
Oh. They got a little too close. I'm curious, can I go in there? Because if I can... Oh, it's a wrap. I'm gonna need one more tank, I'm sorry. I know you're doing your staggered lines thing. We're gonna just do this real quick and immediately back up. Oh, good. Well, I guess they're trying.
We've got off the enemy's reinforcements.
Oh god, they're breeding rapidly. Cool. Easy peasy first mission. $39-1, not bad.
The Royal Naboo Security Force is trying to retake Theed while the bulk of our forces are engaged with the Gungans. You must hold the city at all costs.
See if they do that camera angle or that little thing they do with the speeder where it looks like the speeder's walking. Yep, that right there. Where it's very obviously just like a dolly that's like rotating at 180 degrees. And it was just being shaken from the chaos. Still kind of cool though. It's one thing I will absolutely give episode 1 a sort of forgive me for, is there is a surprising, like I know the prequels get a bad rap for being mostly CGI, and they are, like generally speaking. But episode 1 in particular definitely had a lot of practical effects that people don't really account for. But I think they do nowadays. I mean, more so than they did when they first came out. Because I remember growing up in the really to growing up as a kid in the early to mid 2000s, people were like talking about how the prequels were, or episode 1 was like mostly CGI and how it was garbage, but it was like that more applied to episode 2 than it did at episode 1 for the time. So I always thought it was kind of interesting how people sort of mislabeled it in that way. But like, and the other thing is they mislabeled it in that way, but everybody spoke glowingly of this game, even though it held a lot of episode 1 iconography. Well, and episode 2 iconography, but though I don't think people really realized how bad episode 2 was until much later. At least from my experience. Most people were kind of like, oh, I liked episode 2. And I was like, alright, well, you're kind of weird, but alright. I like the ending of episode 2. I like, you know, when the clones attack. I like the Obi-Wan scenes where he's fighting Django. You know, like I like, you know, Detective Obi-Wan. Not a big fan of Anakin and Padme. I think they had about as good chemistry as a dead rat and a piece of gristle, so I mean, I don't know. But I do quite like the prequels overall. I think the last like hour of Attack of the Clones really makes up for the first hour. And reality is it's really that second act that really like suffers significantly on Attack of the Clones. It's that whole, you know, middle part with Anakin and Padme on Naboo, where it's really just like, oh god, dude, make it stop. Because I quite like the Coruscant parts. I quite like the chase between Zamlassel and the Jedi. And generally speaking, I do like the politics in the prequels. I think it's very interesting. But I know I'm in the minority for that. I think, you know, one of the things that made Star Wars so good overall was just how much people just sat down and talked. Like, I think that was like what made specifically the original trilogy so good, was that there was this whole, like, there wasn't like, oh, we gotta have action on screen at all times. Like, people just talked, you know? And I think that's something that's wrong with, you know, movies nowadays, especially with the Marvel culture, where Marvel movies are being all about action, action, action. And it didn't used to be that way. And I'm not saying like all Marvel movies were that way. It was just like, you know, Iron Man, like I would say Phase 1 in particular was really where it was at its best. Even like the Avengers movie had scenes of people just sitting around and talking. And I'm not saying, you know, oh, talking is good, action's bad. I'm just saying, like, you know, when you have constant action and minimal talking, where the talking is just like, we need to go do this right now, and it's like, oh yeah, you're right, let's go. Like, if the talking is purely planning, you know, like, that to me is like, it's not very interesting. But if you have the talking be like substance-filled conversations about, you know, the roles characters play and things like that, then I think it's going to be a lot more interesting. But I know, like I said, I know I stand in the minority for that kind of storytelling, and I know that that probably applies to things that I don't personally like. Like, I know that applies to a lot of Marvel movies that I don't really like, but I still don't like them because I felt like the pacing, maybe not the pacing, but I just felt like the movie just didn't translate well to me. And that's not something that I can really identify clearly. Now that I've gone on a tangent about Marvel and how movies are made, I guess talk about this game a little bit. I think this game is like, it's I wouldn't say it does anything particularly well, like as far as like action and things like that. Like, I mean, it's a third-person shooter, and it's like sort of a semi-third-person slash first-person shooter. You can kind of choose how you play. But even so, I think this game in particular, it does enough of little things well, where it becomes sort of greater for it. Someone who this is gonna sound like it's unrelated, but trust me, it is. Someone I look up to, a chef named Marco Pierre White, once said, "Perfection is a lot of little things done right," and I feel like that applies to this to a certain degree. I would say, like, you know, you don't have a good Star Wars game without the sound effects, without the world, without the characters, without the designs, without, you know, and then like that makes it like a good, quote, Star Wars game. Like, you look at it, you listen to it, it's unapologetically Star Wars. That's out of the way. So like, if you get those things right, the sound effects, the world, you know, the characters, the droids, all that stuff. I already said all this. Like, if you get all that right, like, you know, all you really have to do from there is just start making like just good enough gameplay. And the shooting feels good enough, like with aim assist on or off. The movement feels good enough. The, you know, physics feel alright, and there's rolling, and there's weapon switching and all that stuff. So it's all not very, it's like, it's not very deep. Like, you're not, like, you know, you're not getting anything crazy as far as, like, you know, weapon choices. It's not like, you know, the assault class has 5 different weapons. It's like whatever the standard soldier class has, what it has for the class. And it's like they all sort of work the same regardless of, you know, who it is. You know, especially like just the main weapon, which is what I do. Like, I mostly just use the main weapon.
Our overtures. Now they will learn the price of their insolence.
Oh man. The fuck was that? Why? What the hell? Okay. Oh, we're on to fucking we're on to Wookiee World and fucking Super Battle Droids. That's cool. Oh. Hold on. There you go. Okay. It's kind of interesting that they don't, like, give you the clones to fight for the first 3 levels. Oh, we get Count Dooku. That's kind of sick. And, to reiterate, I have played this game. It's just been a while since I have, so I've forgotten quite a bit of details about this in the second one, so that's kind of why I'm doing this. Just a refresher. Shit. Wookiee killed. Not even a named Wookiee. Can't even give him a name like Grar or some stupid shit. It's fine. I'm not like mad about it. I don't care. Just think it's funny. And there I go, explaining myself like an idiot. So anyway. It's kind of interesting to see a pre-Episode 3 Kashyyyk design. That's kind of the reason why I am sort of drawn to these this era of gaming, particularly with Star Wars, the Star Wars property in general. Is there was this sort of like, there was this whole like thing of the prequels weren't like fully out, so it was like everything that looked unfamiliar from the movies was sort of like a sneak peek into what Episode 3 was gonna have. So, like, to me, it was always really interesting to see that. Like, it was always like when I was a kid, I didn't like own a PlayStation 2, I just sort of had like friends that had a PlayStation 2, and I'd go over to their place and I'd play it. Like, I didn't get a PlayStation 2 like until I was in high school, and by that point, like, 360 was out. I'd gotten that. But I still had it, and I'd go back to it, and I'd play it every now and again. Like, I might play like a mission of this or something, just to see what it was like. Actually, I do remember. I used to get in trouble a lot, and so my punishment was like I'd have to give my game systems away, and I always sort of like hid the PlayStation 2 as a means to just like, because I had like the slim version. It was like really flat, and you could honestly, like, if you didn't know what it was, you could mistake it for a DVD player. So I was like, I was okay to watch like fucking movies and shit, but I couldn't like play games because, you know, my family knew that's what I really wanted to do, and like, you know, I'd just be, the idea was that I might put on a movie, but I wouldn't like work on my schoolwork, but like, I didn't, because I still had a PlayStation 2. So pretty much all I had to do was just make sure the remotes were someplace where they wouldn't look, and make the controllers, and then you know, from there I could just like say, oh yeah, this is just a DVD player. Like, I had a whole setup too. Like, I mean, like, I had a old DVD remote that I kept by the bed and everything. Like, it was like literally, unless you looked at it, like examined it closely, the PlayStation Slim could be like, you could sort of fool people that didn't know any better into it. Now my dad knew better. Like, my dad was like really he's really all into gaming, so like he could figure it out pretty quickly. But like my aunt, like, she didn't fucking know. Anyway, so like when I would get in trouble, like I would play Battlefront 2 on my shit. I accidentally skipped the cutscene. Oh well. Or the dialogue from Yoda. All right. So like, you know, everybody would go to bed, and you know, I would just be in my room, and then I'd, you know, hook up the PlayStation 2, and I'd feed an Ethernet cable, because the way the apartment we lived in was set up, it's like the back wall, or not the back wall, but the wall of my room was also where, like, on the other side of that wall was where the internet was. So I just basically ran an Ethernet from the internet under my door into the PlayStation 2, and I plugged it right into the PlayStation 2, and then I'd play Battlefront 2 online.
Yes, sir.
And it was like a really fun experience, like, because like at the time I'd mostly be playing like, you know, Halo or Burnout Paradise, or, you know, Gears of War or something like that. And then when I was in trouble, I would go on to Battlefront 2 online. And it got to a point where it was like I was having so much fun with Battlefront 2 online that even when I wasn't in trouble, I would go back to Battlefront 2 online and play it. And it was really a lot of fun. Like, it was really a lot of fun, because it was like one of those, you know, lobbies where it was like, you know, one flag on, like, one flag capture the flag on Death Star for, like, you know, unlimited time, unlimited captures. And it was basically just a bunch of people just messing around playing capture the flag on fucking Death Star. And it was just like, you know, there would be communication. Like, I don't know if there was voice chat or anything, but I think I vaguely remember, I think I saw fucking, like, text to chat. Or like, yeah, I think I saw, like, you know, there was like a text chat thing. And I mean, obviously I couldn't do it because I was playing on PlayStation 2. But like, man, it was a lot of fun playing, because it was like, you know, there was like a lot of like unspoken dialogue between players, where it was just like, you know, people, you would just look at someone and like gesture towards the doorway, and then, you know, 3 other people would join you, and it would be all like sort of like figuring out how to communicate with each other without talking to one another. And it was like something I took for granted, because, you know, I was so used to voice chat in my multiplayer games, because I would play things like Battlefield, Gears, Halo, and, you know, obviously it's easier to say, hey, there's a guy in the fucking building, over, you know, trying to guide someone through what you want them to do without having to talk. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like overall though, it was just like really a lot of fun to play that, and like I really miss it. I would definitely do it again. You know, there's just certain like games where, you know, I brought up a question to my friends earlier today. You know, if you could revive a singular game, like a singular multiplayer game, like, you know, basically no matter what, it had a full player base. It was always like, it was always loaded, and it was always like, you know, like you could always pick up and play it. Like you didn't have to worry about servers shutting down or anything like that. Like it was always just active. It was always like you could always play it. And you know, that's a question where like I don't know if I could answer, because there's so many games where I'm like, man, wouldn't it be great if that was back to being popular? And you know, every time I think I have like the answer narrowed down, it's like, oh, there's another game. Like, you know, oh man, Injustice 1, like that was a game I was super excited for. It was a fucking like crappy Mortal Kombat clone with DC characters, but like I still wanted to play it because it was just so like I don't remember playing a fighting game like it. Like I didn't know, like I'd never played a fighting game where they had a dedicated fucking launch button where it's like if you charge it enough, you could just launch the fucking opponent across the screen. You know, so I was yeah. Sorry, I go on tangents about like random things. Like my process is sort of stream of conscious, so I apologize for that in advance. But in any event, yeah, dude, I fucking like. I just love this era of gaming, though. Overall, like I would say like the golden age of gaming was 1985 to like 2013, I would say. And like even to a certain degree, like they're like, and that isn't to say the last good game came out in 2013. Like no, like a lot of really good games have come out since then, and a lot of like it's not like everything that comes out now is crap. I'm just saying, you know, from 1985 to 2013 is around the time when developers were really just sort of like making shit and trying to sort of push themselves to be, you know, new, to push themselves to be unique, to try something different. And it's like you look at that and you see it across almost every genre, like throughout the years. Like, you know, ever since Mario came out, like Super Mario Brothers, like a lot of like, I mean, there was a lot of like, and that there's a lot of garbage in there. There really is. There's a lot of like derivative shit where it's just like you could tell that the person was just trying to bank on popularity of Mario or Zelda or what have you, and it was like, oh, we'll just make this. And you know, the idea is like you wanted the people to come back for more rentals, and the idea behind making a game hard wasn't like to challenge the player, but rather to get them to spend more quarters on it. You know, that was a large part of the era of that time. It was like the 80s were sort of like the arcades, and at least in the West, didn't have a strong popularity base because people don't generally like, people have big enough houses where they can do the things they want to do at home, whereas in the East, specifically Japan, things aren't really like that. Like if you want to go play games, like, you know, you have like a home console obviously, but like, you know, if you wanted to go play a fighting game, you had to go to the arcade. If you wanted to go play a racing game and like get the fucking driving wheel experience, you have to go to the arcade to do it. And that's true even to this day, because their houses are a lot smaller than ours in the West, generally speaking. So it's like, you know, your home is for living, and everything like outside of that, you know, it's just extra. You know, you go there, you live, you eat, you sleep, and you go out and you do your stuff. You don't stay home to learn. You don't stay home to do extra stuff. You're at home to be at home, and that's kind of like their thing. Anyway, now that fucking tangent's over, So anyway, going back to like what I was talking about, you know, how I think 85 to 2013 is like the golden age of gaming. And the reason why it's such a long period is because I feel like sectioning it off between generations sort of like cheating. It's like, you know, okay, cool, dude. Like, yeah, technically you're right. Like, you know, you're absolutely right when you section it off into different fucking, what's it called? Different generations. It's just, to me, it's not as satisfying because it's like, no. To me, it's not as satisfying because, those generations like have such like huge technological gaps between them, generally speaking. Now, like obviously that's not the case for all of them. Like I think the SNES and NES don't have like such a huge technological gap. But the SNES and the Nintendo 64 absolutely have a gigantic technological gap between them. I think their technological gap is like much broader than most other consoles. And then you look at the GameCube versus the N64, like upon like first glance, it doesn't seem that big, but then you really look at it and it's like, damn, dude, these fucking shits, these fucking consoles, like, you know, the GameCube kicks the fucking N64's ass, and then like you go back 2 generations to the SNES, and it's like, damn, dude, like it's hard to believe that the N64 came out in '96, the SNES came out in '91, and by 2001, a mere 10 years later, the GameCube is out. And that's kind of like, that to me is what's so cool about GameCube. It's like you have 10 years, only a decade. Like, you know, in my lifetime. Let me put it to you this way. I was born in '95. By the time I was 10 years old, there was the SNES, technically, you know, the N64, the GameCube, the Wii. That was all within, like, that's, what, 4 generations in just 10 years? And it's like, that's kind of where, like, I say I draw the line, because it was like, the fucking, after like that generation, the 360, the Wii, and the PlayStation 3, it stopped being about like pushing games to their most, like the technological brink, and started just being, well, let's just refine these games. Because it was around that time where things like remasters and collections and remakes were starting to like crop up, and that's more of a 2020s thing at this point, because like I'm starting to see that more and more and more and more and more, and I'm fine with things being remastered from this era of gaming, from the, you know, 85 to 2013 era, because it's like, you know, I am totally a proponent of preservation, but it's an unfortunate truth that humans, generally speaking, aren't very good at it. We have this tendency to take what's useless, and we have this utilitarian approach to things where if it doesn't like technologically make sense, if it doesn't provide like a technological use, we tend to just throw it away and just tend not to like think about what makes it good. Like, for example, tank controls. Tank controls is a perfect example of something where we look at it and we think it's archaic, and obviously it has no use and we have no reason to talk about it. Where I think the Resident Evil remake, I don't think the Resident Evil remake, where it's widely believed that the Resident Evil remake, amongst the people that have played it, is like one of the best survival horror games of all time, and yet it uses that archaic, quote-unquote archaic tank control thing, and it has like the pre-rendered backgrounds in it. It's like, it's a whole fucking, like, it's something where I've heard the same people who have said it's a technological, or that have said it's like one of the best games ever, have also said that the things in it, the things that it uses, are archaic, outdated, you know, people shouldn't do it anymore, things like that. So it's very interesting to me how there's something that people widely believe, or widely consider to be the best of the best, but like still say that it's outdated. Now, obviously, I don't have like an exact quote from anybody, so like you can take my word for it or not. But even so, I do think it's interesting that there's this sort of fundamental belief that games have to always be pushing forward, and if they're not doing anything to push things forward, then they're just useless. Like they're just taking up space. And I'm glad you know certain developers are sort of going.
I have to on Camino.
Is that the end of it? Okay, good. I'm glad developers are bringing back certain things, and believe it or not, like Konami is slowly working its way back into my good graces because they're bringing things like they did the Castlevania collection where it was like the 2D games, like Castlevania 1, 2, 3, Bloodlines, Rondo of Blood, like games like that, and like putting them all in the collection for people to play, and I think that's great. Like I think that's awesome, like full with rewind features and everything. You know, but you know, so long as it's a feature that you can utilize or not, like I'm okay with it. But anyway, that's a different conversation. Regardless, though, I do think it's really cool that these like collection, like they're releasing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collection. Like that's something I never thought would have existed. I never, like if you told me, you know, 5 years ago, hey man, what if I told you there's going to be a collection of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle arcade and SNES games that's going to come out? I would have called you fucking crazy. Because, like, why would anybody do that? Why on earth would a game company of any kind release that? You know? Like, why would they do that? And now these companies like Capcom and fucking Konami are releasing these collections, and it's like, I think it's great. I think it's awesome, dude. I think more companies need to do this. More, like... You have Nintendo breaking out emulators for people to play their old games on, and I think that's great. Like, I mean, obviously, I know there was a big stink about how Nintendo is charging $20 more for a Genesis emulator, a Nintendo 64 emulator, and Animal Crossing DLC, and like, that one didn't quite click with me, but like. Maybe I'm just not understanding something, because like I have that online thing, and it just seemed like you're just paying for 2 more emulators like you were paying for 2 emulators to begin with. So maybe it's the fact that people wanted the option to just have the N64 and just have the Genesis, or you could like mix and match. But like that's something that's been endemic with Nintendo for a long time, is they're not about customization. They're pretty much about like, this is the product, take it how it is or don't. Which, you know, I can understand that artistic choice of take it or don't. Like, you know, this is how we want the creation to be. If you don't want to pay for it, then don't pay for it. But, like, we're not going to change it because we want it to be this way. And, you know, it's kind of one of those things where I both agree and disagree with it. Like, I agree with it because it's like, hey, dude, like, if that's your choice in artistry, like, if that's your artistic choice, go for it. But, like, at the same time, I understand the argument of, like, it's, number one, it's not much of an artistic choice to say, I'm doing it this way, and I'm not giving you the option to mix and match. But I do, like, but I understand more so the whole, like, the want to mix and match, the want to have customization. And at the end of the day, the only thing I can say for that is like, you have options to emulate for free. Like, and that's an argument people use. The argument people use all the time is like, well, you know, why on earth would I pay money for something that I don't have to? And, like, again, I understand that, even though emulation is illegal, but, like, I think it's illegal. Don't quote me on that.
We've captured a command post.
So, like, to that I say, okay, well, do what you feel comfortable with doing. Like, me personally, you know, if someone is putting forward an olive branch, excuse me,
I hear something.
to me to try to gauge my interest in something, like, for example, if me, it's sort of a gamble though. Like, if me going forward and getting the Nintendo Online expansion has the potential to get me an advanced emulator or a GameCube emulator, yeah, you're damn right. I'm gonna get into it. Like, I'm gonna try.
We've lost the command
Like,
post.
if it shows interest in it, you know, and again, like, it's
Enemy
kind of
forces have
screwy
captured a command post.
because it's like, you know, a company sort of gauging the consumer's interest in something by basically saying we're not going to give you what you want, but if you want to get what you want, buy this first. But it's like, it's a fair way to play because like they know, like people, like for example, Capcom releasing their fighting game collection, which has a lot of Darkstalkers and I think a few old Street Fighters. They know Street Fighter's going to sell. Like Street Fighter, like they don't need to worry about Street Fighter selling. So them putting the old Street Fighters on the collection is purely a, this is for you. Like, this is for the fans that want to have their Street Fighters on their modern consoles. And for the record, that's the other thing. Is a lot of those collections are for console players. Like a lot of the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, for example. It's a collection of all the games for new consoles. Like, yes, I think they released it on PC, but like PC players have been able to play those games with the graphics and fidelity and the frame rate for a long time. Console players have been stuck with capped frame rates for a very, very long time. So, that's not for you. That's for console players. But anyway, going back to Capcom releasing their fighting game collection, they know that Darkstalkers fans are going to buy a Darkstalker game. What they're concerned with is whether that is going to be able to generate enough money to, you know, make returns on their investment, if you will. Because, like, at the end of the day, making a video game is a very expensive, long, arduous, painful struggle of a process. Like, I don't know much about, like, game development in general, but what I do know is that it's a miracle that any game gets released, period. And that's why I appreciate the area of gaming that I do, is because it's like, you look at all these fucking games that come out, and a lot of them are, like, really good. And a lot of them take risks, and it's a huge thing to say, okay, we're gonna make this game, and we're not gonna play it safe. We're just gonna make the game we fucking want to make, which is why games nowadays frustrate me to no end, because it feels like they're just making very safe games. But anyway, going back to Darkstalkers and stuff like that. But I think it's kind of like flawed logic, because Capcom is releasing the Capcom Fighting Game Collection, which has Darkstalkers, which has Street Fighter. And I would not be surprised if they're using that to gauge interest for things like that. But like I said, they know Street Fighter is going to sell. They know Street Fighter 6. Like, they're making Street Fighter 6. They know there's going to be millions of copies sold of that. So it's like they're not worried about Street Fighter, you know. So they're gonna announce, like, you know, if they're gonna make a new Darkstalkers game, they're going to see how much people are willing to pay for, or how many people are willing to buy this. And so, like, I understand it. Like, I totally understand the logic behind it. It's also just kind of like, yeah, you're also putting Street Fighter on there, and you know Street Fighter will sell, so will that not, like, sort of poison the well of gauging people's interest in Darkstalkers as well? Because, say, enough people buy that fighting game collection to warrant a Darkstalkers game, and then you make that Darkstalkers game and it doesn't make anywhere near enough money because it turns out most people bought that fighting game collection because of Street Fighter. So, you know, it's like, I understand what they were going for, but like, if you really want to gauge people's interest in a Darkstalkers game, make a Darkstalkers collection. Now maybe there's not enough games to warrant a collection for the price point that they wanted to go at, and maybe that's why they threw the Street Fighters in there. I don't know. Like, again, I don't know much about games development. I don't know how much effort it takes to throw those games into a collection. With how often they're being done nowadays by Japanese companies, I can't imagine that they're particularly difficult to grab the ROMs and just throw them on a file. But like, again, I don't know. I really don't know. So like, I don't like saying, well, it's easy enough to just throw those ROMs together. Because like, yeah, it's easy enough for me to go online and download ROMs and load them up onto an emulator and play it. Like, that's pretty fucking easy. But like, I don't know how much work it takes to put together those ROMs. I don't know how much effort it takes to make sure everything works the way it should. I don't know. I don't know how much it works to emulate it. Like, I don't know, and I'm not gonna try to know. I really don't want to know, because it's something that sort of like ruins the magic of, man, I'm fucking switching between these crazy ass games really fast. So I know I know my opinions on games are very, very weird, and I know that my perspective is heavily skewed towards console gaming, and that isn't to say that I think PC gaming is trash or like it's not as good. Like, I'm very much aware that PC gaming is objectively better than fucking console gaming, just based purely on like the level of performance you can get out of a PC, the customization ability of playing games on a PC. Like, you know, for example, you can play Battlefront modded on the PC and get like heroes, characters, classes, weapons, and stuff like that that you could only dream of. And it really makes like Battlefront 2 like this whole brand new experience. Like, and it also makes it so your games will be finished. Like, if you want to play Knights of the Old Republic 2, the best way to play it is on PC, and I will 100% agree with that all the way to the bank. Like, I mean, anytime I play Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, I play it on PC because I fucking think it plays best on PC. But if I play Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1, I'm going to play it on my Xbox because, you know, the PC version of the game is just really buggy. I don't know why. I don't know like what it is. Like, I don't know if it's the Steam version or what, but like for whatever reason, I have the Steam version of the game. Whenever I try to play it on PC, it's a fucking mess. Like it crashes. My controls lock up. I'm unable to move. It's not a very fucking fun time. And that is, to me, the greatest flaw in PC gaming. Is like, if I buy a game for my Xbox, I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that the game's gonna fucking work. And if it doesn't fucking work, I can report the problem and it can be patched. Like, and what I mean by it's gonna fucking work, I mean like I'm gonna get the base elements of starting it, going to the menu, playing the game, pressing start and being able to play. Like, I know I'm gonna be able to do that when I buy my game on an Xbox. Now, when I buy my game on a PC, I don't know how well my computer's going to be able to handle it. So, like, there's going to be a period of start the game, load it up, oh my god, this frame rate's garbage, close the game, fiddle with something, fiddle with the setting here, fiddle with the setting there, oh, okay, that didn't quite work, exit the game, like, and you just, it's this dance. And some people find it interesting. To those people, more power to you. I hope you have a lot of fun time fucking around. Like, I don't find it fun. And I'm not saying that you can't get any fucking value out of that. You know, any number of people can get value out of anything. But like I said, I would say the number one greatest draw with a bullet to console gaming is that when you buy your game, it's gonna work. Like, it's gonna, at the very least, you can load it up, you can press start, you can be playing rather quickly. Like, you know, barring tutorials. But, like, you're getting the game that you paid for. Like, you're not just sitting there hoping that your console's good enough to run it. And, like I said, I think that's the greatest flaw with PC gaming. It's like, because of the customization, because of the ability, all the game really checks for is like, well, I'm not gonna say that because I don't know that for sure, but it's like, you know, it's you gotta fiddle with it if you want it to run properly, you know. But if your specs aren't good enough and you really want to play this game, well, guess what? You gotta shell out more fucking money to play a game. And you know, and I've heard the financial argument of like how it costs cheaper to play. Like, I've heard of the argument. I haven't heard the argument itself. I'd be interested to hear, because when COVID hit, one of the projects that my dad and I worked on was building me a gaming PC, because I always wanted one. Like, I always wanted a gaming PC where I could, like, plug it in and play my PC games, because I had a lot of games I wanted to play on PC, such as Star Wars: The Old Republic, Phantasy Star Online, Knights of the Old Republic 2, New Vegas, Fallout 3, Fallout 4. Like, I just basically had a lot of games that I wanted to mod and play on my PC, because that's really what my PC is at this point. It's a mod, and also Age of Empires and other RTSs. So, when it came down to it, like, you know, it cost us a shitload of money to put that fucking computer together, dude. Like, it really cost us a lot of money, and in that time, you know, I was able to buy and enjoy a shitload of games. Matter of fact, I was able to, through the virtues of Game Pass, get hours and hours upon hours of enjoyment from games while I took a break from building my gaming PC. And that's kind of like, that's, to me, is sort of the miracle of gaming, is that, you know, your time to money ratio is going to differ dependent upon the person, you know, and if you spend enough money on something to the point of where it frustrates you, you know, there's going to come a point where it's like, this doesn't feel like $1,000. Like, this doesn't feel like I'm fucking... This doesn't feel like $1,000. This feels like just a waste of my fucking time. You know, this just sucks, because it's like, I spent all this money and I'm just playing a fucking shitty RTS from the 90s, and like, what the fuck, dude? But for me, it's like, I don't think about it like that. Like, for me, I just enjoy video games. As long as I'm having fun, I really don't fucking give a shit how much it costs, because for me, you can't put a price on enjoyment. Like, you know, my enjoyment levels doesn't have a fucking price tag. So long as I, like, there's obviously things where it's not like, I'm not gonna not give a shit and put everything on a credit card. You know, I'm not that fucking stupid. But I'm just saying, like, you know, if I put money into something and I get the ability to play something from it, then I don't give a shit how much money I spend. Like, right now, I'm playing this game on an Xbox Series X. Like, I bought money. I used money to buy this super high-powered fucking console, and I'm playing a game from 2002 on it, or 2004. However old this game is. And I'm having fucking fun. And it's like, that's just something, like, I don't see $500. I just see, wow, I'm fucking having fun streaming and playing a game. And like, this is something I wanted to do as a kid. Like, the whole streaming and gaming thing. So, you know, this is just me fucking living out a dream I had as a fucking child, and I couldn't be fucking happier doing this shit. Like, I know my tone is dry, and it's kind of like I sound like I'm being like sarcastic, but like I'm being pretty fucking serious. Like, you know, this is just shit that, like, how do I put this the best way? When I was a kid, specifically middle school and high school, like, this whole YouTube, people getting paid to play video games and people just posting videos of them playing games was like really, like, it really started around that time.
The Separatists
And
have launched a desperate attack on the Wookiee homeworld. We cannot allow this planet to...
it was always so interesting to watch these people getting paid to do it, and it was like, I was like, man, these people just fucking, like, they're phoning it in. Like, I would watch people like Markiplier and PewDiePie, and I'm like, man, these guys, like, they're not doing it because they love it, they're doing it because it's their job. And it just, like, it sucked to watch that. Like, it really did. Like, it really just sucked to watch someone play a game and not love it, you know? To just, like, you know, oh, why are you playing Amnesia? Because it's the hot new game. Because it's the game that everybody's watching right now. And it's like, you're not playing Amnesia, Outlast, and shit like that because you think it's good. You're playing Amnesia and Outlast because that's what's hot right now. And it's just like, it sucked. It sucked to see that. I was like, man, where's the people that are playing fucking, like, Metroid? Where's the people playing fucking, you know, like, you got millions of channels playing the new Pokemon, but, like, you know, where's the guy playing Super Metroid? Where's the guy who's playing Fire Emblem? You know, where's the guy, like, and I know, like, Fire Emblem in particular doesn't, like, translate well to Let's Play because a lot of it's like, you know, hey, I'm sitting around in menus, like, it's not very exciting to watch, I'll say. And it's not really exciting to play. It's just, it's for me, it's a brain teaser. But anyway, I'm not going on a fucking tangent about fucking Fire Emblem. But, like, you didn't, like, I don't remember seeing games like this very often. Like, I just, you know, it was all just the newest, hottest horror FPS. Like, there was a lot of Call of Duty players. It was like, you know, I was like, cool, dude. Like, at the end of the day, like, and I didn't have a concept of this as a kid, mind you. It wasn't like, you know, fucking 13-year-old me was watching fucking PewDiePie saying, wow, he's really just, you know, taking the piss out of the art form. Like, it wasn't like that. It was just more like, I don't like this guy. I don't know why. There's just something about him. I don't like him. And everybody, like, and I use everybody loosely. A lot of my friends that were also nerds, like me, would look at me and be like, oh, you're just a hater. You know, you just think, you just hate that he's successful. And it's like, no, I really don't care he's successful. You know, I just kind of like. And of course, my excuse at the time was, oh, he makes the rape jokes too much. Now, and the reality is, it's like, you know, and this isn't to say that rape jokes don't bother me, but it's just like, dude, you know, that wasn't it. The reason why was just because it seemed like he was phoning it in, and to a certain degree, I feel like he's still doing it now, but he's not like, when he plays a game, it seems like he's playing a game more because he wants to play it, and he has to make content this month, so it's like, he'll just play a game because he enjoys playing games, and I think that works a lot better. When you do something because you love doing it, it comes off more genuine, it comes off more heartfelt, and it comes off, to me at least, more entertaining to watch. And that's kind of the reason why I want to start streaming more, even if it is just talking to myself for one viewer. Because I fucking enjoy this shit. Like, I enjoy playing games, and I enjoy talking while playing games. And it's a lot better to stream my fucking stream of conscious than it is to just talk to myself. So it's really, it's therapeutic for me. I enjoy doing it.
Incoming!
And that's kind of just the reason why I want to start doing it. So, I mean, I hope I get plenty of viewers. I hope people find it interesting. I hope I can get fucking, you know, it'd be great if I got fucking paid to do it. But, like, that's not the reason why. I have a job. I get money. You know, it's not like, you know, it's like, it never should be about that. And that's part of the reason why I fucking, like, I've had a lot of trouble stopping and starting, like, streaming. Like, I mean, I've gone under, like, 3 different accounts now that, like, don't have a whole lot of fucking followers, truth be told. I don't think I've ever had very many. But part of the reason why that is just because I don't, like, you don't do it constantly, and there is a grind to it. There's definitely, like, especially if you're grinding to get more viewers, like, there's definitely, you know, you have to do it often, and you have to do it, you know, interestingly, otherwise people aren't gonna watch. But, you know, I'm just gonna do it my way, where most streams will probably start with me being rather quiet, and then as I ramble, I'll ramble into different pieces, and it'll lead into being an hour in. I'm talking about things like other YouTubers or fucking, you know, games in general, development cycles and shit like that. So we'll just see how it goes. A lot of this is purely unscripted. Now, if I know, like, a fun fact about a game, I'll share it. But for the most part, you know, it'll just be sort of stream of conscious things that come to mind, and then those things will lead into other things, and then I'll go on a tangent about a topic, and I'll completely forget where it started from, and it'll be very frustrating for me. That's kind of like my problem, I would say. My biggest problem is that my inner monologues, my inner monologues lead to other things. My favorite way of putting it was in this show called Justified, where a character says, I learned a long time ago to think without arguing with myself. And for years I struggled with thinking like that, where you're thinking and it's like a conversation. You're having like a debate with yourself. And it is like, it's something like when you realize it, you're like, oh my god, that's exactly what the fuck it is, dude. That's exactly what thinking when you have a fucking issue is. You're just arguing with yourself, and it's like, it's almost like shadow boxing, but like in a really retarded way. It's really just kind of like, man, what the fuck? So I don't know, dude. Like I'm very interested in that kind of stuff, and you know how the human brain works and why people act the way they do. So like every now and again, I might go on a tangent about humanity and you know why people are the way they are and how that correlates to gaming from time to time. So look forward to that. It's getting to be late, so this is probably going to be my This is probably going to be my last mission. I have this one. I think this might be the final one. I don't know though. I don't like I said, I don't really remember this very much. But it's kind of interesting to see the Kashyyyk beach theme from a sort of earlier point in Star Wars history. Obviously, if you've seen the movie and you played Battlefront 2, you know the version of this we got in those is very different from this. This is definitely, I won't say it's better, but it's definitely, I would say it's definitely a little bit more I guess picturesque would be the word. And even then that just feels like me being a pretentious dick. Shit, I did it again. I don't know. There's just something a little bit more like, and it could be because like I don't see it very often. Like I see it in this game, and that's it. So it could be because of that. But there's something about this map that I think is really interesting. I'm not going to. It's better than the Battlefront 2 version. I feel like that's just an inherently edgy take to have, so I'm not gonna take it. But I do quite like it. I do like how there's certain like docks and things like that. I do think the switch to the version from Battlefront 2 in the movie, I think that one works better for the tone that they were going for, which I think is pretty obvious, like D-Day, because that's kind of like, you know, what they channeled with that is, you know, beach storming and stuff like that. It's kind of my dad called it. It's like Tarzan meets fucking D-Day, and it sounds like a weird concept, and it is a weird concept because you know that's what Star Wars is. It's still very interesting. Thanks for running in front of my gun twice. It's still a really cool concept to see this sort of alternate version of it. This sort of like I won't say like half-baked version, but I will say it's more like a sort of rough draft version of that scene, of that idea. And I think that's really interesting. Like I said, I generally speaking love Star Wars. Especially before Disney bought it, and I'm not like gonna go on a tirade and talk about how the Disney Star Wars are soulless, but I will say that I think a lot was lost when Lucas left, and that's something that I will like for all of his faults as far as writing and as far as dialogue and editing and you know touching his old films up. Lucas was never short of ideas. He was never short of something creative. He never like didn't have an idea for something. He always seemed to have some sort of inspired idea of just, you know, well, let's try this. You know, like there's no one else in the world, I think, that would have been able to, with a straight face, look at somebody and say, Yeah, I kind of want to do a D-Day type Normandy scene with fucking Wookiees swinging on ropes doing the Tarzan yell onto Beechcraft. And also, like, I want to have a scene of fucking... And in that same movie, have a scene of fucking clone troopers straight up gunning down fucking Jedi. Like a straight up massacre, like shooting the body repeatedly after it fell onto the ground. Like, Lucas was just somebody who would, like, just look at you with a straight face and be like, yeah, let's do this. Like, let's just do this crazy fucking idea, dude. And, you know, especially by the prequels, who the fuck's gonna tell him no? Like, who's gonna be the one to be like, no, George, we're not doing that? And, you know, and the reality is,
Captured a command post.
if someone did, the movies as we know them would be fundamentally different. I don't think they would be as, like, I'm not gonna say like the movies are great and they're beloved and like people look back on it with reverence now. Like I think people sort of still nowadays have this thought process that the prequels aren't that good, but like there's some good bits in it. I personally stand in the camp that I don't think they're that good, but I think there's a lot of little things done right. So I sort of defend them for that reason. But yeah, I'll if I remember this conversation, I'll continue it next time. But I think that's it. That's the end of it. Yeah, we get a little celebration cutscene. I say cutscene very lightly. It's just a very crappy render. It's really crappy version of the film, which is still cool to me. Oh, we got Puppet Yoda. Oh, wow. They didn't let that bad boy bang out. They just said, we're done. Alright, well, whatever. Whoever watches this, I hope you enjoy it. And I hope to make this again very soon.